team rap Jesus. My team go hard. My team rap Jesus. We about to go far. We about to go far.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Fervently Creations Marketplace Ministry. This is where we mix in marketplace and ministry. Listen, marketplace is an area where a lot of times is no light in it. Once I say that, it's no light. So I say light, it's nobody that is really going out there and saying, hold on, let me be the light into this world. And so with that, I love to bring on guests and seeing exactly how is it that you are going out and doing things that God has told you to do, but you are still letting your light shine. What the song say, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. How are you letting your light shine in such a dark area, into a dark atmosphere, such as the marketplace? We actually need kingdom-minded people that are in kingdom-minded people in certain positions. We need them in the governments. We need them, politics. We need them in travel, those that are like travel agents. We need them in the perfume industry. We need them in the jewelry industry. We need them in the entertainment industry. We need them in the media. We need them in arts and stuff. And so how are we actually going out and saying, you know what, let me not look to be behind a pulpit. I'm not saying that, hey, that's where he called you. Even if he's called you to the pulpit, what am I doing outside of the four walls of the church? What am I doing to go outside and say, let me shed a little light out here. Let me be the light. Let me be the Jesus that they see, because sometimes we are the only Jesus they see. We are the only light they see. We are the only time that they're going to get the gospel. Every show I say there's 5 gospels. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and you. Are you actually showing up? Because sometimes the only one they pay attention to, the only one they're going to listen to, the only one that they're going to engage with, interact with is you. They're not going to pick up the book. Some people just say, hey, I just don't like reading. And so they won't get up and read. Or they will go and they probably watch some certain things or certain shows, or they might just know a little bit of it. But are you making the gospel? Are you making what you see in that 66 book? Are you making it relatable to them? Are you making it way to where they can actually receive it? Are you bridging that gap? That's it. That's what I'm looking for. Are you bridging the gap between the Bible text and what's going on today? We have to go out and bridge the gap. And the way that we do that, we use different things as our way of doing it. So he may call you into family. He may call you as a counselor. He may call you as a coach. He may call you as someone that is out doing inner healing. He may call you in areas that he's able to use you at. I like using Peter, for example. Once he was out there and he uses Peter's boat as his area. He wasn't in a synagogue. He was outside. He was in the community, and he was on a boat. What are you actually using as your boat? What are you actually using as your platform? Those that have certain trades, it could be if you're a mechanic, during that time, it may be how you treat them, how you talk to them. It could be the grace, the mercy that you show them. It just could be the word that is in your spirit on that day that they come to get their car service, that is able to shift or change the trajectory of their life. So we have to be mindful, especially once we're out in the community. A lot of times what happens is that you see people act one way inside of church, and then once you see them out in the community, they act totally different. So here's my question. What are you doing outside? How are you showing it? So if you are actually taking the work and you're doing things outside of the 4 walls of the church, come talk to me. Let me know what you're doing inside Marketplace Ministry. One way you can do that is go to my website, www.ferventlycreations.com, and you're able to book your show at whenever it's convenient for you. And then we're able to come in and we have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's see exactly what you're doing. Let's hear how you are allowing God to use you beyond the four walls. I truly believe God he's been doing it for a while, but it's going to get a little bit more aggressive, where God is actually calling people into the marketplace. He's calling us into the marketplace. Why? Because we have so much attention, so much media influence as well. And so what area, sphere of influence, is he calling you to? And are you actually using that for the glory of God? Listen, if you would like to be a blessing to the show, make sure you cash out me. Not make sure. If God tells you to be a blessing, you can cash out me at $Tish0621. So let me tell you about some of the things I have going outside of the four walls of the church. One of the things that I have going on is my perfume line, Fervently Intense. You can also go to my website, get that. I love it. I love it. It has frankincense and myrrh in it as well, but it also has a blend of a citrus smell to it. It is a smell that lingers. It's one that will stay in the room even after you leave. So it is a lingering smell. I love it. And it's something, it makes a statement. It's bold enough to make a statement. So if you would like to order that, please do. Please go to my website, check it out. I'm all sold out of the body wash. I still have a few body lotions on hand, and I do have some more perfume bottles as well. So Christmas time is coming up. Make sure you go out, check it out. Another thing, come right with me. Come right with me. What is your story? What is your testimony? I got 2 anthologies coming up next year, and I'm already doing author calls for them, because once we hit the ground, we're hitting it running in 2024. The very first one is going to be, though they're opposite on the screen, is I'm Not Okay. The vision behind I'm Not Okay is that a lot of times we go through and we're acting as though everything is okay. Come on, women. We're going through life. We're doing the mom stuff. We're doing the wife stuff. We're also working, and we're holding it together a lot of times just by our foundation on our the makeup, but we're crying behind closed doors. We're on our knees and we're pleading to God. But some of us, we're saying, hey, I'm not okay. So a lot of us that have been through depression, we've been through anxiety, we've been through thoughts of suicides. How are you actually going through and saying, you know what, let me tell you how I came out of it? Someone needs your testimony. Somebody needs your story. Somebody needs to know, how did you overcome what you went through? Same thing, prisoner of war in the mind. Somebody needs your testimony. A lot of times we allow what someone has said to us, what someone did to us, a mistake that we made, or a decision that we made, or whatever, we allow it to continue to play over and over and over and over in our mind. And then it becomes a war zone inside of our own mind. How did you escape? What was your mindset shift? What was the thing that caused you to no longer be a prisoner of war in your own mind? A prisoner of war in the mind. This is Reloaded. This is actually going to be our second time doing this anthology. And so real quick with the anthologies, you'll get a chapter in the anthology. You'll get editing of your chapter. You'll get promotional graphics. You'll have several TV and radio show opportunities. You'll also have an opportunity for speaking engagement. Both of these have a virtual conference attached to them. So with the virtual summit, so with these, the authors, depending on which package you use, you will actually have opportunity to be able to speak at part of the virtual summit. So each and every last author will get that. Also, each and every last author will have an opportunity, or will get a ticket to come to the Prisoner of War in the Mind Conference that is scheduled June 21st to June 23rd, 2024 in Huntsville, Alabama. Looking forward to seeing y'all there. Again, this is an amazing conference. We did our first one this year, and it was phenomenal. We had our Kingdom Networking Gala, which was awesome. That's where we did our networking scavenger hunt. Everyone was dressed up, and it was awesome. We had some amazing singing and everything going on. So, and then we also had our honorees. So we honored people this night. We'll be honoring people this year that are operating in the 7 mountains within this their sphere of influence. That are also, so we'll be honoring people in marketplace ministry, right? Day 2, we'll have some speakers going on. Right now, I'll give y'all a little snippet. We got Apostle Nakia Hardison. We also have Apostle Mike Ebron as well. So those are our 2 daytime speakers. That night, we're having our deliverance service. We're going to do some soaking prayer right before that. But after that, we'll have our deliverance service. And then on the final day, I will close that out. And I will actually be the speaker that closed out the conference this year. So listen, make sure you keep tuned. Maybe you say, hey, I don't want to write, but I do want to come to this conference. Make sure you follow me on my social media areas. You can find me at Fervently Creations on all social media platforms. Fervently Creations on all social media platforms. And then that way you can stay tuned and get the information that you need to be able to come to the conference as well. Last thing, hey, I'm also available for speaking engagement panel conferences. I am certified Christian mental mental health coach, as well as I would say life coach, but let me be more specific. I focus in the area of inner healing. So I am also available for that as well. So if you want to reach out to me, connect with me, make sure you do. Now, let's get to the word. My favorite part. This one is coming. We're coming out of Exodus today. So normally I give like 1 or 2 verses, but we're gonna, it's a little bit longer this time. So just bear with it. It says, but Moses said to the Lord, "Oh my Lord, I'm not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue." Then the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak." Exodus chapter 4, verses 10 through 12. I use the English Standard Version, right? This right here, I love it, because a lot of times we find ourselves in a situation with Moses to where we are telling God how we are unqualified. Gideon did the same thing, but it's a lot of us that do the same thing that Moses and Gideon did, where God is saying, hey, I've called you for a great work. And we begin to disqualify ourselves and say, well, God, why would you call me for this? You know, I don't know how to pronounce all those big names in the Bible. I can't say all them Bible names. God, why did you call me to preach? I remember when God had first started to call me into ministry, and I began to give him my whole rap sheet, like he forgot. Like, wait a minute, God, I used to be a prostitute. I used to be a stripper. I was the adulteress. Like, God, what is really going on here? Like, what is we doing? And so I began to go back and forth with God on that, because I did not feel like I was qualified. Oftentimes you hear people say he does not. I can't remember exactly how they say it, but it's something about like he does not call the qualified. He qualifies who he calls, or something to that nature. And so a lot of times we sit there and we say, hey, like, you know, God, I cannot speak eloquent. God, I stutter. That's still some of us today. We might say, God, I stutter. With me, I have a bad habit of saying, And so that is like one of those things that you're like, God, I can't speak as eloquent as this person may speak, or I cannot speak eloquent as this person. I may not can do something as eloquent as, I cannot write as eloquent as somebody else can, right? What happens is a lot of time we start comparing ourselves. Comparison is a big dream killer, because we begin to look to our left and our right, and we begin to compare how this person speak and how that person speak, and we don't move fully in our identity. We don't move fully in our anointing that God has called us to move in. We look at our flesh. We look at our outer appearance. God, I don't look like a preacher. What does a preacher even look like? You know, I don't walk like, what is it? It is a preacher walk. I don't know how to say. You know how sometimes you look like, I can tell that right there is a man of God. I can tell it. You tell by the way that some people carry themselves. But also God used the ones that will confuse people, because sometimes you can look at some people and be like, yep, I already know he fits and bring a word. He fits come in with, but sometimes he confuses the enemy by someone's outer appearance, because of course we're always looking at the outer versus he's looking at the inner portion of a man. And once I say man or woman, you know, and then they begin to open their mouth and they begin to deliver or say something that is so profound, something that is so like just breathtaking, like you just know, okay, that was nobody but God that just spoke right then and through that person. So we have to quit disqualifying ourselves on certain things. A lot of times we talk about how other people are hating on us and how other people are trying to keep us down. But let's be honest, we have Moses experience. We have Gideon experience, to where it's not other people, it's us. It's us because we are comparing ourselves. We're saying what we can't do. Don't let anybody else tell you can't do it, but do not stop telling yourself that you cannot do what God called you to do. Stop telling yourself that you cannot, that you can't move in the way that God tells you to do. But with this one, he said, "Who's made the mouth?" Quit telling yourself that you can't speak in a certain manner. He made your mouth. He can guide your tongue. He said, he said, is it who makes them mute? Who makes them deaf? Some people, I can't hear. I can't see. I ain't no seer, or however you want to look at certain things. And we begin to just downplay ourselves. Quit downplaying yourself. There's greatness in you. There's greatness on the inside of you. If you will walk in your full identity of who God says you are, and not who you say you are, and not who you compared yourself to for with looking at other people. So with that, I'm gonna read the Bible verse one more time as I bring up our guest today, and let's see what she has to say on Exodus chapter 4. So it says, "But Moses said to the Lord, 'Oh my Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken.'" Man, how did I miss that? "Either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue." Then the Lord said to him, "Who has made your mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now, therefore, go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak." What do you say, woman of God, about this verse, this passage?
Man, you actually broke it down very well, and I was listening to your version of downplaying ourselves, and I agree with you 100% because I think also ministerially, we feel like we cannot do anything that is not only contributing to ministry, and we can't do things that are going to be outside of the four walls. For example, a lot of us in the ministry in the church, especially the Black church, we don't know what it is to do other things. The marketplace, which is your gift to us as ministerial persons and ministry workers, is such a blessing because you created a marketplace for people in ministry. Because we feel like if we do business with somebody who's not saved and is not serving the same God that we're serving, we feel like we're sinning, right? So this scripture, I actually read it when it was sent to me. And I mean, we know the story of Moses, and we know that, he had a stuttering, he was shy, he had a speech problem. So when he was told to go to the big bad Pharaoh to release the people of God, I mean, even I, that I'm a little bit more confident than Moses, would probably be like, I don't want to go. Like, how am I going to go up against Pharaoh? Not to mention him being shy and withdrawn. And remember, he lived in the wilderness in the bushes for years, running from, people that was trying to kill him. So I think this scripture really can teach us that no matter what level of life we are in, if God says go, go. If God says do it, do it. He will give us the words to say. He will guide our steps. He will show us what to do. We just have to trust, believe, and accept the assignment to go. And that's why God explained to him that, listen, I'm the one that give you, speech. I'm the one that can make somebody blind. The fact that you are not dumb, it means you can speak. So we know the rest of the story. He told him go, and he will tell him what to say. And when he says, God, who should I say send me? The Lord said, I am that I am. Just go. So that was really something that was profound in the scripture. Just go. When God give you the assignment, go.
Yeah, and I like that you pointed that out. Now, therefore, go. And a lot of times we don't go because we're still like, wait a minute, hold on, God. Like, you want me to go talk to the president? You want me to go talk to the governor? You want me to go and talk to the owner of that company? You want me to go and because we look at ourselves so less than, because we are respecter of person. God is not. Because we are such respecter of person that we will begin to say, hold on, I cannot talk to this person because of who they are, and because of what I've heard about them or whatever, I can't go talk to them. It's kind of like once Paul, was Ananias, I want to say was his name. I want to say was, and Ananias was like, I can't go talk to Paul. Like, you heard about this man? Like, he was killing Christians. Like, you want me to go talk to him? And that's kind of the same thing with Moses. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. You want me to talk to him? Like, he's been doing this for years. He's been doing this for decades. So what about me is going to make him change? What about me? What is it that I'm going to say any different than anybody else that said it's going to make this person change. And sometimes I think once we look at that and we're thinking, what about me? And God is saying, what about you? What's going to help us? Because you're going to yield your mouth over to me.
Yes.
And once you
Yes.
yield your mouth over, it's not you speaking, but it's me speaking through you. And once I speak through you, now I can create the change that I need to happen into the land. And so sometimes we close our mouth and we don't completely yield over because we're worried about what whoever they is. They can be a whole bunch of people, but we're worried about what they sometimes is imaginary people. It ain't even people that's going to say anything. They're just imaginary people, but we're worried about what they going to say. What they going to say if I start the perfume line, because that's outside of the four walls. What they going to say if I write the books, if I start going into, well, he didn't call me to the spirit influence of religion. He called me to the spirit influence once it comes to media. And once it comes to media is also the journalism. So, so the same thing, because you do travel and stuff, right?
Yes, correct.
And so that's the area in which he calls us to, because he needs to be able to, because some people are drawn to that. So now, since I know that you're drawn to that, now that I know that you're going to go seek this person out. Now that I know that since you're going to seek this person out, I can use this person, because once you get in this person's presence, this person is so yielded to me that this person will hear from me. Because I make the ears, they're going to hear from me, then they're going to speak for me. You're going to think you're calling them for one thing. It's happened to me so many times where people may have thought they was calling me for one thing. I thought they was calling me for this one thing. And the conversation takes a whole nother turn. Why? Because God needed us to be connected. And so he would use certain things, hey, I need you to connect with this editor. I need you to connect with this graphics designer. I need you to connect with this publisher. Why? Because it is a need there. Something has to be said. Something has to be done to cause a shift. And so we have to be obedient in those areas, in the way that he uses us in the marketplace, and be okay with being unorthodox. Be okay with doing something different, of using a different platform. God may say, you know what? I don't want you at the pulpit. I need you right there at that stop sign.
Yes.
I need you every time that you pass this certain gas station. I need you to go inside that gas station, and those people that's hanging out on the side and they're drinking or talking or whatever, I need you to say, hey, y'all have a blessed day.
Yeah.
I need you to ask them, how are they doing today? And stop and wait for their answer. Not the, hey, how you doing, and keep walking. I need you to ask how they doing today. I need you to stop and wait for their honest answer, and then just flow. And so those are certain ways that God uses us, and we have to be obedient to it. And we have to also understand we may not have a title. That's another part. We be waiting on the title for permission to speak. And here Moses didn't have a title.
Nope.
He didn't have a title. And so sometimes we're waiting on a title. Well, I can't say that. I can't do this or whatever, because I ain't got no title. I ain't no pastor. I ain't no evangelist. But he still called you to the work of an evangelist.
Amen.
And sometimes he needs the people without the titles to be able to discuss that. Like I went to a conference one time, and it was Women Without Titles. That's the name of the conference. Women Without Titles. That's awesome.
That's great.
All right, I'm sorry. All right, look, I got my spiel. Woman of God, tell the people today who they had the pleasure of speaking with and just listening to on today, and what it is that you do in the marketplace.
All right. So my name is Rosezetta Johnson. I'm actually an evangelist ordained in my church. One of the few businesses that I have is, number one, I am a notary public for the state of Florida, which is something that's needed across all boards. I am an owner and CEO, along with my husband, of an online store, Essential Must Have. And I'm also CEO of DRB Luxury Travel. And what that does is we do travel planning, trips, group trips, couples trips, honeymoons, cruises. If you want to go somewhere, I'll book it. My motto is travel is life, because whether you travel for missions in the church, to spread the gospel, or to take care of the poor, once you come out of your home and go somewhere else, it is considered travel. But what I do is I take the headache out of planning it yourself, and the hassle, and I help you plan it, and I get you going. You enjoy yourself, and that's something that I contribute as well to the marketplace.
That's awesome. I love that you said you take the headache out of it, because sometimes the trip is already ruined in the planning place. Like, we
Yes,
ain't got on nobody's plane, we ain't got on nobody's boat, but everybody is already at odds because of the
especially group
process
trips.
of, yeah,
Especially
on
group
group
trips.
trips.
Yes.
And so how do I'm noticing now you have more people that are in ministry that are doing things such as like ministry retreats. Are they doing speaking engagements and stuff, but they're offering them overseas versus actually in the
Locally.
States. And so I think once I inquired about it, I'm seeing that it's actually cheaper to host a conference overseas than what it is in the States. And like, what is the cost? Why do some people, let me ask a direct question. Why do some people feel that it's so expensive to actually travel and they don't travel?
Well, what I notice is especially our culture, meaning Black people and Caribbean people,
Mhm.
because we're so used to just working and paying the bills, we feel like if we take maybe $2,000 to go somewhere for 3 days and sit down and relax, because we have to come back to the said job or the family situation or the kids or anything that causes us the stress that we're going to release. I think they're like, it doesn't make sense because when I go release that stress for 3 days on an island somewhere, I got to come back to the situation to start
Yeah.
with. Not to mention, women with children, family with children. But for me, I can say that a lot of times when I have been refreshed and I've been repowered and re-energized is when I go out and take that trip and lay in a hotel even for a day. When
Yeah.
I come back, I feel myself because the everyday life, working, taking care of your family, taking care of the kids, being in the church constantly, it drains us. And as a person that works in the ministry, I'm in women's department. I do go on missions trip with my apostle at my church. I do almost every event in the church. I'm a part of it. I plan this, I plan that. After a while, I become drained. My husband is a deacon. He literally takes care of the church along with a few other men.
Yeah.
It's draining. And I can say this even from a marital standpoint. I know that's not our topic today, but a lot of times when I have problem with my husband, I remember the trips we've been on. I
Yeah.
remember spending that 2 nights in Vegas, or I remember going to Napa and sipping wine, and I'll look at him like, that sometimes stopped me from divorcing him because
Yeah.
he's my travel partner. I have fun with him when I go out.
Yeah.
So when the devil comes in and that situation hits you and it affects your marriage or your marriage is being
Yeah.
tested, something you have to hold on to. And I love holding on to memories. And so for me,
That's
travel
awesome.
is memories, whether it's with your girls or whether it's with the church or whether it's just your family. It's something that you can say, do you remember that time we went to Jamaica? Or do you remember that time we went to Mexico? Or do you remember that time we went to that church and how many people got delivered? I
Mhm.
think it builds memory. I think it you have that to live on. And it's
Yeah.
something that you can look forward to your next trip.
Yeah.
So travel has always been a part of my life. I am a flight attendant by career. That's my job. So these things are just
Mhm.
additional businesses that I do, and I love it. I have a passion for it, and that's why I spread it out in the marketplace and in the church.
So with that, let's kind of tap there just a little bit though. Once it comes to couples in traveling, like how important, essential is it for? Because let me go back. Once it comes to marriage, the grass is only green where you water it at, right? And one part that we forget to do sometimes is take that break from everything and get away as husband and wife. Even those with small kids. My kids are now at the age to where I got one in college and one soon about to be headed that way. And so now we're kind of at that state of like, hey, let's travel. But we forget to do it once they're younger and stuff. How essential is it for married couples to actually take those moments, take those breaks, and travel as husband and wife?
For me, I would say it is optimal. You have to. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily going to be afforded every 3 months you're going to go somewhere, but even once a year, your anniversary or each other's birthday or something. It's as simple as there's so many places in the United States too that you can go, you could drive, you could go fly. You don't have to go to another country. But it
Yeah.
is cheaper to go to, for example, Cancun. I could get you a Cancun trip for maybe $1,000 round trip, all inclusive hotel, 3 nights for 2 people. But then if you maybe use that money and say, I'm going to go to New York City, it's going to be 800 per person. So it just depends on, where you want to go, how much time you have off. But I think it's very important because, as I said, even before now, some of the times when I'm mad at my husband and I'm pissed and I feel
Mhm.
like, you know what, God, this is it.
Yeah.
I will go through my phone. I'll see something that we did that was so fun and it calms me. I'm still mad, but I'm there looking at, the time we
Yeah.
spent in Napa, or the time we spent on the Gulf of Mexico, or the time we drove the kids to Orlando and just, walked around and ate some food or something. But I
Yeah.
think travel is important, especially for couples, because everyday life, work, stress, the bills, taking care of the kids, it is draining, it is frustrating. I think it's also stressful. And I think the love is also better when you're somewhere you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Get dolled up, maybe got a massage, and just come back relaxed and refreshed, and you can be yourself. You can function after that. So even though it may not be affordable for everyone, even once a year. Plan it ahead. There's a lot of tours and trips that you can pay for ahead. You can do deposits. You can take your time and pay down on it. Plan that vacation ahead. Listen, honey, our anniversary is next June. What are we doing? How's our budget? Okay, I can set aside $200 a month to pay on this trip. I could go on a cruise.
Yeah.
Do something, because speaking from experience, many times that's what keeps me in love, because sometimes you lose the love. Many times it's the memories that keeps me in love. So I think it is of optimum importance. And I think every couple should try to do it as often as they can and as often as they can afford it.
Yeah, we kind of started getting convicted about that even once we had did marriage counseling, and the marriage counselor, she said, when was the last time y'all took a trip? And I was like, uh and so here it is, next year we come up on our 20-year anniversary. So we're like,
Oh,
oh, we want to go to Jamaica. And
congratulations.
thank you. So we're like, hey, we want to go to Jamaica in July. But the fact that we never took the trip, but we also never took our kids on a trip like that as well. So we're like, hey, kids, because they're at the age where they can actually stay in a room together
Yeah.
by themselves. So it's like, hey, you know, do y'all want to go? We can either do, me and Dad's just going to go by ourselves, or if y'all want to do it, we can do a family trip, because we're also overdue for a family trip as well. And
Awesome.
so that was one of the things that we're kind of now looking forward to, though we're like, okay, it's far out, it's in July, but let's
You
look
have a
and see.
travel agent right here. I am literally just
Exactly.
planning. I just finalized a family reunion in July in Jamaica for 165 people.
Wow. And
Yes.
so and that's my thing. Sometimes we do not know what is in the kingdom with us, right?
Yes.
And so we may look and say, oh, she's a flight attendant, but it's more to her than just
More
that.
to it.
And so sometimes we don't know who actually labor amongst us. And so once you actually begin to talk to people, now you're saying, wait a minute, I got someone that is just in there. And what I love about marketplace ministry is I feel like you're held to a higher ethical standard, because you
Yes.
have some people that do business and they're all about money. They're trying, but you
Mhm.
understand that it is a ministry behind what you do. It's a ministry. It's kind of a self-healing type ministry, or a self-recovery type of ministry, a recovering ministry. Go and take time and recover your joy. Go and recover your laughter. Go and take a break. Go and take rest. Go on a sabbatical. Go and
Yes.
take that moment to get away, and let me show you how to do it without breaking
The
your bank,
bank.
because I
Yes.
because I care more about you. Yes, it does have a profit in it for me, but I also see it as a ministry in a way that God used me to be able to help and guide, lead, and mentor other people. Where did you get the DRB? What does DRB stand for?
So my husband and I are all limited liability company is DRB Wealth, because I got a vision years ago that I have to break generational cycles of not having extra money, not necessarily to be, abundantly rich, but just to be afford life. Like my mom has worked, she had me at 15. So I've only seen my mom work, 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 like never enjoyed life. And so when we started doing business, and well, let me backtrack. We wanted to do business a few years ago because we wanted the freedom to also do missions. So as I
Okay.
mentioned earlier, I travel a lot with my apostle on various missions. I'm part of a women's ministry called Woman Broken to be Blessed, which is my apostle's baby. It's a birthing out of her
Mhm.
life. I'm a secretary for that. I go everywhere that she goes for that ministry and other mission trips. I'm one of the few ladies in church that travels with her. Now, working a 9 to 5, it was really hard. I would not get time off all the time. I would use up my vacation for the year. And on top of that, when I use my vacation, I would not have extra time to go out with my husband for our anniversary or just his birthday or my birthday or something like that. So I said to him, we need to start doing businesses to get something that we're not going to be working. Like he works 60 hours a week. My husband is a nurse. So for him
Mhm.
to take time off, sometimes it's hard. And
Yeah.
so we decided we're going to do that. I searched for the name of registering our LLC here in South Florida, and we just put our names together. So his name is Dwayne. My name is
Mhm.
Rosetta, the D and the R. Brown is actually my married name, but I haven't changed my name yet. So that's why Johnson is what I use because everything still has Johnson. But the DRB is actually Dwayne Rosetta Brown. And then it's Wealth and our LLC. So now I try to do everything with the DRB. So I just did DRB Luxury Travel, continue with that name from our LLC. So that's where the DRB comes from.
Okay, so with DRB Wealth, so let's talk about that. What are some of the things that are services that y'all provide with DRB Wealth?
So under DRB Wealth, we have our online store, Essential Must Have, which I actually started selling through Google 2 years ago. Some unique products. I have a reading shirt line because I read a lot. So it's like tank tops for women or T-shirt that says "I love books and cats" or "Read, repeat, return," or just one more chapter, please. Just a little catchy stuff. I also have a pet line, leashes, dog carriers that you will take on the flights with you for your pets. And then we sold those through Amazon. It slowed down a little bit early this year. And so I kind of retracted it and actually just uploaded and put that store now on Google. So now I'm into the Google ads running. That's the next step. So under that, I have the notary, which I'm the only one that's a notary, and I'm a loan signing agent as well. And in my church, I'm actually one of the main notary. As somebody said, Notary Republic in Overcomers Community Center, which is our church, they're like, go to Sister Rose. So I'm the main notary. And then now the DRB Luxury. So it's just the three entities under the DRB Wealth. So whatever I go into again or venture in, because I'm always looking for something to meddle in and invest in, it will always be under that umbrella.
So with the pet line, I love that you actually did something more, unique because you have some stuff in. So it's very rare. And once I say this is probably like I'm going on a year and a half now doing this show, and you're the first person I've actually have had that have done something a little bit outside of scope of just human and said, you know what, I have a pet line as
Yeah.
well. Where does that passion come in at?
It wasn't even a passion. When I was studying e-commerce, maybe 2, 3 years ago, I I realized that in order to get saturated in the market, you have to go into niche or a niche that is gonna make the money. And I don't have a pet, honestly, but I realized that pet supplies, pets, little dog shirts, little anything has to do with pets and different types of dogs, it does sell. So
Yeah.
I actually go into it based on the fact that it is needed in the market, and I'm gonna be a part of the person that supply those items. But I do not have a pet, so it was just one of those things that's like, you know what, this is gonna make the money. I'm gonna do that.
My dad, that's one of his things was I was talking to him about business stuff, and he was saying, if you start a business, you have to make sure there's a need for it. And
Yes.
once it comes to pets, those that are pet lovers, and I have two pets, but
Oh,
I grew
okay.
up in a household full of, a household where we always had dogs. And so I was just talking to my mom the other day, and my mom, she was like, yeah, I just bought King. I just bought him another sweater. And listen, I'm like, you buying this dog a sweater?
Yes,
And
they have
so,
the little shirts. They have
yeah,
little bandanas, the shirts,
yep,
the special collars with their faces. and stuff, and they're so cute. And I learned a lot when I was studying that business. So that's what I did on Amazon, and it would sell mostly in the holiday times, and then it would die down. And then I launched in April this year the reading line because I love to read. So I said, let me just get some tank tops with little catchy phrases that appeals to people that love to read and stuff like that. So I've done that, and it was pretty good for a year and a half, and then it starts slowing down. And I'm like, okay, God, I need to revamp. Let me know what to do now, because that's how business is. You have to move with the times. You have to go with the flow. You have to go with the changes, because that's just how it is. It changes.
So what would you say to individuals once it comes to rebranding? Because it shows that you're saying it, and it's showing that you're not afraid to rebrand, and you understand that sometimes due to the seasons or just the shifting of the times or whatever that you have to go in and rebrand, or you have to go in and find another niche, find something else that it bring more attraction. So because sometimes finding another niche will actually bring attention to the one that you was previously doing. So talk to us about rebranding.
So definitely, if something's not working that was working previously, number one, look at why it's not working. Number two, what's the solution? I love solutions. I always tell my husband, I said, when there's a problem, I even taught my daughter, you have to have a solution. You have to say, okay, what's going to get us out of this situation? So rebranding, definitely find out what's not working, work on what's gonna work, and study. You have to study. Timothy said to study and show thyself approved, right? You have to study, because any market you're going into, you have to study the ups, the downs, what's gonna work, and you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna lose, you're gonna gain. And so I read a lot of books about, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was one of my biggest books. I read it 3 times.
I did too.
3 times I read that book as recent as a couple months ago, because it reminded me of some things that is needed, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur. I've read Leadership. I've read Who Moved My Cheese, which was about the mice that was caught in a maze, and one didn't want to go somewhere else, but the cheese was on the other side of the maze. But because every day they go that one track, they wouldn't go somewhere else. And so when the other mice went to the other side of the maze, he found the cheese while the other one was stuck on the other side. So you definitely have to rebrand, find what works. For example, I now move mostly from Amazon, and I'm doing Google. So now my store is on Google, because a lot of people search for stuff. It comes straight to my store. You can order and everything like that. So I have to find other ways to say, okay, what's going to populate sales, generate sales. For the travel, I didn't rebrand because I just started earlier this year, but I realized that the more group travel you promote, the more money you make. So now I'm into that. I've just hosted my first group cruise, and I've successfully booked 12 cabins on a ship for next July as well. That's something that if I didn't branch out and said, let me just, see what can work. And you have to move with the times. You have to network to learn what works. If you're in the perfume business, in network, find out how to get your perfume in Macy's, or JC Penney. Networking is going to bring you that. So for me, you got to rebrand, find what works, change it up. Don't stick to one plan. Don't be like, oh, this is the way I'm doing it. 10 years, I'm not changing. No, 10 years ago, even 2 years ago, things have changed.
Yeah.
So that's my piece on that.
Yeah, I love that. Even with, it was 2 things that you said that I wanted to comment on. With the niche, because you have everybody doing the travel, but you're noticing that the groups, but now it's just like, well, who actually goes out and start not targeting, but focusing on those church groups of saying, hey, if you're trying to plan a retreat, take some of that out of your conference planning and let me help you. Let me help plan. If God has called you to the nations, God's called you to speak to the nations. Let me help you get to the nations at affordable prices. Learning your niche and knowing exactly how to market to who he's called you to. Like who is my voice for? Because a lot of times we don't know who our target audience is. Right. And so knowing, okay, God, show me who my target audience is. Who did you give me ear for? And so that's where it's like, but you're saying this is what I was doing for the church. So if you're already doing it for your church, maybe I need to start reaching out to other kingdom women and saying, hey, I see you have a conference. Where do you plan on having your next one at? Let me show
Yeah.
you how to do it at an affordable. I seen that you did it in the Virgin Islands this year. Let me show you how to do it in Jamaica. Let me show you how to take it into another region. God's calling you to preach to the nation. What's holding you back from doing your first conference overseas? God's
Yeah.
calling you to speak to the nation. He's calling you to women. Why not take the women on a retreat to Dubai? Like, why not take them on a retreat to Cancun? How can I help you in this area? And so we need that, because a lot of times we'll try to plan that whole thing out on our own, and now we have a whole headache. And
And
before then, we're already mentally drained before it's time for us to even preach the word.
and the next thing to add to that is, just to interject a little bit, is that what I notice also is when it comes to group events, because the travel agents, they are under a IATA or a CLIA or association. There's a specific code that you need to go to some resorts, some hotels, some places to get group bookings. If you're not an agent with a IATA number, a CLIA number, or your affiliation numbers, they're not going to give bookings of a certain group to individuals. So, for example, you might try to reach out to a resort in Dubai and say, "Hey, I have 30 people coming." They may be like, "Okay, are you working with an agent?" Because they want the contract portion of it to really be dealt with and handled by a trained and certified agent. And so that's where I come in a lot. And so my next trip, which it's so funny, I was trying to plan that for next year for 2025. I spoke to my pastor and I'm like, "Pastor, I think we should take the church to Israel." Lo and behold, the war. And I'm like, but I'll see what happens early next year, and she said, "Yes, I will help you push it because I too want to go to Israel." So I'm looking at that, and that would be a good thing, because a lot of times if it's not the pastors or leaders in the church that push something, some members or the congregants, they don't participate. So that
Yeah.
would be a good thing for me as well. But then I'll see how it plays out with everything going on, because
Yeah.
we probably have to put that out for a couple of years, seeing that everything just started going AY. But that's something we just spoke about. I was on a mission trip in the Bahamas with her in September, and I told her, I said, "Pastor, we should go to Israel." And she's like, "You know what? My husband and I, we wanted to go. If you plan it, I will definitely push it to the church and make it a combined, trip." And I'm like, "I would love that."
Because even if
So,
God say,
but
"Hey,
that's
I
just
need,"
something that, as you said,
so even if guys say like, "Hey, I need you to go into that region," who's to say that you can't go and say, "We're doing a prayer conference in Israel," and that conference is just where y'all are over there and y'all are praying in that region, and there's so many people that will actually probably join on that
yes,
movement. That's a movement.
correct.
Hey, we're going to Haiti and or
Yes,
wherever, and we're going into these regions to pray. Why? Because we're not familiar with some of these spirits. Because we're not familiar, we're not scared of them. So we have the power to actually pray on a whole nother level than what they're used to. So we can go in and kind of break some chains off some stuff just by being
amen.
in the atmosphere and praying. So that is awesome. The Move the Cheese. You're the second person I've heard mention about that book, and I y'all just gotta excuse me, because sometimes I get a chance to sit at certain people's feet, I just have certain questions that's just like, wait a minute, I forget about the whole audience. Move the Cheese. What really stood out to you about that book? This is the second time I've heard that. I was about to ask you about Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was just because that was something I've read before, but this Move the Cheese thing is really interesting to me now. Now there's the second time I've heard about it. What is your biggest takeaway from the Move the Cheese?
My biggest takeaway when I read Who Moved My Cheese was changes. Um, I read it maybe 3 years ago, and it's about three mice. It's actually three of them. I remember one of them name is Ham, right? So I think it was like ham, tam, lamb, for example. And they had this routine of every day they would go to a certain part of a maze. I think it took place like in an office, to get food, cheese, anything that they could find. For some reason, though, they were going there for a while and everything started drying up. There's no food, there's no cheese, nothing. And one of the characters, I think it was got word from like another mice that there's food or cheese on the other side of the maze around the office. But then he started talking to his peers, like, "Listen, we need to go around and stop coming here." And they're like, "No, we've been coming here for years. This is where the food is, and I'll stay here. And every morning they will do their routine of going to that little section of the maze to get food, and they would not find the food. So in the book, I think he stepped out himself, or just two of them stepped out to go around the other side after the end because they're back and forth for maybe a while. And when they went over there, that's where the food was. That's where they found their food and find the cheese. So the book talked about how your routine can hampers you or dampers you from reaching another level. Because if he didn't hear from, I think it was another mice or somewhere, he heard some mice talking, because in this book, mice talk or rats talk about where the cheese was and that they had to go around another side of the maze, then he wouldn't have made the chance. And when he did take the chance to move and break his routine, he actually acquired food and got food. So it does brings about the change mentally and then actually acting on the change. And I really love that book because when I started, I was like, oh my God, it's about some mice. But then because I love to read, and I feel like if I don't read, in the reading world, we have this acronym called DNF. It means do not finish. If I DNF a book, I feel like I failed. So I will push through a book even if it's not reaching or I'm not feeling it, just to see what happens. And I did, and I was glad. I think the author's name is Selena Johnson or some Johnson. It's a white book with some colors on it. So that was really what it is. And for a book like that, it really was uplifting because it does talk about, number one, changing your mentality and acting on that change to acquire the next step, because they would have started to that if they haven't made the change to go somewhere else to get a cheese.
I heard a thing once it comes to reading. They said even if they're not into the book, they're looking for that one sentence that is for them.
Yes.
And so they read the book looking for the one sentence that is supposed to change their life. I picked up this book. What is this one? None of this stuff seems interesting to me, but it has to be one sentence in here that means something to me. And so they read with that mindset of where's my one sentence? And so I'm reading the book, but I'm on a scavenger hunt for where is my one sentence. And so sometimes you get lucky, not sometimes, a lot of times you get lucky and you find a whole bunch of stuff that's just like, oh, wow. But sometimes it's a scavenger hunt, like, whoo, all right, this chapter 1 has really been, is really.
It's really been interesting. Yeah.
So what is next for you? What is next?
Next for DRB Luxury Travel is really just to get bookings on a wider scale. I mean, to be honest, though, I must say I'm very blessed. I was talking to someone last week. I will be sleeping or flying, and I get a text or a request on Facebook. It will be a stranger that recruits me. I had a lady call me from New York maybe 3 weeks ago. She said, you posted something on Facebook in June, and I kept your post, your flyer for your information. And I'm like, so where, do I know you? And she's like, nope, I just saw you on Facebook. I guess I tagged somebody. She's on their page. As she said, I just wanted you to book a trip for me to the DR, to Dominican Republic. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And those things means a lot to me because number one, the people around me that use me, they use me because they know me. But when your business can reach someone who doesn't know you, a stranger, and you get that client in, I feel like it's just like, because even to close the contract for the 35 rooms at Rio Ocho Rios for the family reunion next year. That person, they're in Georgia, and somebody just know me and said, hey, speak to this girl. And now, she and I have become friends, but I felt accomplished because I've worked through all the kinks, the back and forth, the dates, and now we're on the way to booking everything. And so I do feel accomplished with that. When I went into this, quickly, if you allow me to speak on this, when in April, the flying went down. I'm based in Miami with my airline, and so Miami went down, and this is a testimony in itself. And I was talking to someone on a business page from like February, and she would send me the information in my private messages. It's like she asked, anybody want to travel and make money and something? And I usually don't answer those things because there's always something to it, but I put interested, and she messaged me. And so I read the message and I will forget about her, read the message, forget about her. And then in March, my friend and I, we went to Greece, and April I came back, I'm working. And then May I was going to Ghana with my apostle for a 10-day women's, everything mission trip. And I learned that the flying slowed down and I'm going to be back on reserve. Now I've been on straight schedule for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And now I'm going back on reserve. Reserve, you're on call. I hate reserve. You have no control over your schedule. You have to go where the airline send you and stuff like that. So I started praying because I'm like, God, I actually got angry a little bit. And I said, God, I am spending all this money going to Africa because we pay our own way, the vaccines, the visas, the everything. I said, God, how can I come back? When I come back, I'm not going to be making money because I'm going on a reserve, and reserve, you don't make money. And I hear the Lord said, you have the answer. I'm like, God, what answer? What answer? Like, you need to tell me what to do. Now, by this time, my store is slowing down. So my Amazon sales is a little bit not coming much. And I'm like, God, what do I do? And I was talking to my husband. I said, babe, I can't go back in reserve. I don't know what to do, but I'm not going to quit the airline because I love the flexibility I have. And so I remember the young lady was messaging me, and I went in the message and I read all the messages she sent me for like a month. And I said, you know what? I'm going to call her. And I was on a layover in Atlanta, and I called her. I said, do you have a minute to speak? Or I text her, do you have a minute to speak? She's like, yes. I said, tell me about this travel advisor agent business. Tell me about it. And she spoke to me about it. And in her voice, though, I could hear that she is a Christian. And I said, can I ask you a personal question? I said, are you a believer? I didn't say Christian because some people, I said, are you a believer? She said, yes. She said, I am. And she started telling me how she started her business. She said her husband put her out with her kids. She needed a hotel to stay in. Somebody signed her on to be a travel agent so she could get the benefits of being in a hotel under a travel agent code or whatever. And that's how she started a business 3-4 years ago. And I looked into another option, and I was like, it's too corporate. I love the sisterhood that she brings in the field. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I spoke to my husband, said, you want the money for it? I said, no, I got money. I signed up. And that was April. And I can tell you this, Tish, I don't regret it. I don't regret it because it's been one of the things that, because it's a passion of mine, it's so easy. It's so seamless. It's nothing for me to book 2 trips. It's nothing for somebody to come to me and say, I want to go to Paris. I'll be like, okay, boom, 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 I'm ready. So it really is a blessing to venture into this at a time when my money was being, affected. And I asked God, I said, God, what am I going to do? Like, and he's like, you have the answer. So this really was ordained by God for me to go in this because I didn't want the hassle of dealing with people. But I find now that it's no problem for me to send you 3-4 quotes, even if you don't book with me. And I have a high booking rate. I mean, maybe 4 out of 5 people that come to me book. So it's been a blessing. And now I'm having my first trip. Some of my ladies in church who have never been on a cruise, they'll be going on a cruise with me next July. Never been. They're like, oh my God, thank you. Because I've never been. And I'm like, you're going to go with me. You're going to see how it is. So, it's really been good.
That's awesome. That kind of shows too with both of the stories of, the lady that had said, hey, I've seen the post you posted back in June. And then even with the other lady where she kept messaging you or so, and it shows of your being consistent and being present, because sometimes we'll continue to do something in business, and because we don't get a overnight success or we don't get an overnight turnaround with something, and people are not seeing it or mentioning or gravitating to it right away, we'll quit in the process. And it just shows, hey, continue to show up for yourself because someone is seeing it. Though you may not have the likes, you may not have the shares, but the right person one day will see it. So continue to do it until you reach that right person.
Amen.
Tell everyone how it is that they can connect with you.
All right. So I do have 2 Facebook pages. My personal page is The Anointed Rose. The luxury travel page is DRB Luxury Travel, and it's also on Facebook. I am on Instagram as well, DRB Wealth. So The Anointed Rose really came about when I got resaved in 2018. I used to be a party girl. And so I used to be named like Rosie Progress and Bad Rosie, like those names, used to be the names I have on Facebook. And when I got saved, I still had a previous Facebook name that attributed to my former life. And one day I struggled with, what do I need to change my Facebook name to? And I just hear You're Anointed. And I remember when I did The Anointed Rose, somebody called me and said, like, they messaged me and they were like, why do you have the Anointed Rose? Are you anointed or something? I said, yes, I'm anointed. I'm anointed and I'm appointed. And I got offended because, like, what, girl? Listen, it's a Facebook name. But I wanted it to represent who I am in Christ. I've been reborn. I was a backslider for years. That's another story for a different talk show, but I've just been, called again, and I'm glad I got the opportunity to serve again. And so that's how that Facebook name came about. So the Anointed Rose is my personal page. DRB Luxury Travel is the business page. I have Essential Must Have, but I barely work the page because it's so much to, monitor social media. And then my Instagram page is DRB Wealth. So I'm on all those platforms.
Listen, make sure that y'all reach out, connect. Oh, excuse me, and connect with her for your travel needs. Also, just for other stuff. Check out her shop on Google. Listen, it was a pleasure to have you on the show with us today. I enjoyed talking with you, and I promise you, I'm going to go check out this cheese book.
Yes, please do it.
I want to figure out who moved the cheese and how to get to the cheese once the cheese moves.
Yes, Johnson is the last name of the author. I think it's Selena or Sylvia. It's Johnson though, because I'm Johnson, so I always remember the author. So, yeah.
It's awesome. Well, I thank you. Listen, once we bring people on the show, we always tell you networking is not about connecting people. It's about connecting people with ideas, and people with opportunities. She have opportunities for you, opportunities for your travel needs. So listen, I'm advertising her for those that are looking to say, hey, I want to do a women's retreat. I want to do a women's mission. I want to do a conference overseas. God's called me to the nations. Make sure you go check her out. Make sure you connect with her, collaborate with her. Once it comes to kingdom, it is about collaboration. It's not about competition in kingdom. So make sure you go and connect with her. And with that, we will see you next Thursday. Have an awesome
My team rap Jesus.